A couple of housekeeping things before I talk about what we're going to be doing over the next 2 days. We have a conference app. Has everybody downloaded the conference app? Show of hands. Good. If you haven't, I'd recommend you do it because this is going to give you access to speaker bios, to the agenda, to all of the presentations as well. So those are on the conference website, but they're also can be in your pocket or at the table on your iPhone, iPad, Android device. So I do recommend you doing that. There's information in your packets on how to download that. So let's talk about the next couple of days. What do we hope you get out of this conference? Well, we want you to understand NSF, to know what we fund, to know how to prepare a good proposal. We want you to understand the merit review process at NSF because knowing how that process works can in turn help you write better proposals. And that's what these 2 days are all about. So if I could see with a show of hands, how many of you are faculty researchers? Okay, and how many of you are research administrators? Great. So we've brought a similar mix with us from NSF as well. So we have each NSF directorate represented here, but we also have representatives from other parts of the foundation. So we have our Office of the Director is represented, our Office of the General Counsel, our Office of International Science and Engineering, as well as our Office of the Inspector General. We also have staff from our Office of Budget, Finance, and Award Management. And we are, including myself, policy specialists, grant specialists, accountants, and cost analysts. And the agenda over the next 2 days has been structured in a way that you have access to us for the duration of the conference. And we want you to ask us questions. We have built a lot of time into the sessions for you to ask us questions. So ask us questions during the sessions, ask us questions during the breaks. The breaks are there for you to talk to us, but also to talk to each other. And ask us questions after we leave. You have all of our direct contact information, emails, phone numbers. You can write questions on the comment cards and leave them for us. So we've given you a lot of ways to be able to reach out to us. So what I'd like to do is just go quickly through the agenda for the next 2 days and just give you a sense of what we're going to be doing. So today, to begin, you're going to get an overview of NSF, our structure, our current and future funding outlook. That's going to be followed by 2 sessions. The first will cover the opportunities that NSF has, the mechanisms in which we receive your proposals. And you may be surprised, and not everything is just your typical research proposal. The second session this morning the next session will cover the proposal preparation process to get a sense of all of what is required in your proposals and what goes into all of that. Then we'll have lunch. After lunch, we're going to go into what happens to your proposal once it reaches NSF. Who looks at it, what they're looking for, how are decisions made. This is the merit review session. And after that, we're going to move into our first round of breakout sessions. Now, let me talk about the breakout sessions today and tomorrow. This is, first of all, for our online audience, this is where you get a little bit of a break because the online audience will be viewing just the plenary sessions. During the breakout sessions, you'll have an opportunity to attend a directorate session. There are 2 of them. They are meant to be repeat sessions, so that'll give you a chance to go to more than just one directorate session. Then we have some single topic breakout sessions, and those are identified on your agenda and will be presented one time only. If you have a question about which session you should go to, just come and ask one of us. All of the NSF staff, we have these yellow badges here, so you can identify us that way. The session that concludes the day today covers award management. And no, that's not just for the research administrators that raise their hands. Just because you receive an award from NSF does not mean that your relationship with us has ended. Quite the contrary. And this session is going to give you all the tools you need to understand the full life cycle of an NSF award, from the moment you get that award notice through the submission of your final report. We're then going to conclude the day with a reception on the Skyline Terrace located on the 5th floor. And then tomorrow is going to be structured a bit differently. You'll have 2 opportunities for breakout sessions. We're going to talk in the morning about changes to NSF policies and procedures. And then right before lunch, we're going to have 2 plenary sessions, one that covers the work of the Office of the Inspector General, and one that covers the programs of the Office of International Science and Engineering. After the second round of breakout sessions tomorrow, we're going to finish the day with a session on the NSF Faculty Early Career Program. So we've been doing these sessions, these conferences since 1993. I have not been doing them since 1993. I've been doing them since 2003. But they started as single-day events with a handful of program staff, and they've grown to 2 full days, and we have 24 NSF staff with us. And that's happened because of the input that we've received from the folks like you who've attended these conferences. So if you've downloaded the app, at the end of each day, you're going to get a notification which is asking for your input. How are we doing? What would you like to see changed? If you haven't downloaded the app and you want to fill out a paper form, there are paper forms at the desk outside. You'll also get an email. Since you've registered, we have your email. We want your honest feedback. We want to be able to adapt these conferences to ensure that you're getting the most out of your time. I also want to note, and you'll hear more about this throughout the 2 days, that NSF offers an opportunity for scientists, engineers, and educators to join the foundation as temporary program directors. We call them rotators. And they play a key role in the programs at NSF and help shape the direction of future research and education. And in all of the presentations, I've provided a link to more materials about becoming an NSF rotator. And you can certainly speak with any of the NSF program staff that are here about that. And we also have a representative from our Human Resources Office who's here specifically to talk to you about that. So before I introduce our first speaker, I'd like to ask my NSF colleagues to all come up and stand up. And we're going to pass a microphone around because we want you to know who we are, where we're from, and put names to faces. So if you could just introduce yourself, say where you work in NSF, and pass the mic down the line.
Is the mic on? There we go. My name is Jean Feldman. I'm head of the policy office in the Division of Institution and Support. I work with Jeremy, and I have done these since 1994. So twice a year, that's advanced math. And I've missed one to have a child 21 years ago. So if you have any questions throughout the conference, I'm absolutely happy to help you figure out what perhaps is the right session to go to, et cetera.
I'm Alexis Lewis. I'm a program director in the Civil, Mechanical, and Manufacturing Innovation Division in the Directorate for Engineering.
Karen Cohn, as in ice cream. I'm in the Biological Sciences Directorate. I'm a program director in genetic mechanisms.
Yay, Karen.
Hi, my name is Tamara Schneider. I'm a Deputy Division Director in the Social, Behavioral, and Economic Sciences Directorate, and I was a program officer for the Social Psychology program in that directorate.
I'm Jeremy Epstein. I'm the Deputy Division Director for Computer and Network Systems in the Directorate of Computer and Information Sciences and Engineering, and I'm a former program officer for Secure and Trustworthy Cyberspace.
Hi, my name is Randy Phelps. I'm a staff associate in the Office of Integrative Activities in the Director's Office, an office many people haven't heard of, but I do programmatic issues, primarily our Major Research Instrumentation Program and our Science and Technology Centers Program. And just an FYI, I was a rotator in the Astronomy Division for 3 years as an IPA, so if you have any questions about that opportunity, I'm a resource person.
And good morning, I'm Catherine Eberbach. I'm in the Directorate of Education and Human Resources, and I'm in the Division of Research on Learning in Informal and Formal Settings. And I come to you as a former PI, so I know the places in which you are.
Good morning, my name is Daniel McEnroe, and I'm a Grants Management Specialist in the Division of Grants and Agreements at NSF, and I will be finishing the day with you all at the award management session later today.
My name is Tony DiGiovanni. I'm the acting division director of the budget division in the Office of Budget, Finance, and Award Management. Basically, I work to get the money from Congress so that my colleagues can give it out to folks like you.
Good morning. My name is Dale Bell. I'm the Division Director for Institution and Award Support.
Good morning. I'm Claire Hemingway. I'm in the Office of International Science and Engineering, which is in the Office of the Director.
Good morning. I'm Christy Whitridge. I'm a cost analyst within the Division of Institute and Award Support.
I'm Sonia Esperanza. I'm a program director in the Division of Earth Sciences, which is in the Geosciences Directorate. I was also the chair of the career program, so I'm giving the career talk at the end of tomorrow. If you have questions about career, please contact me.
I'm Justin Pohl with the Division of Financial Management. I'm an accountant. So if you have any of those post-award financial questions, you can attend my session tomorrow.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Paula Knox. I'm a grants policy specialist in the policy office within the Division of Institution and Award Support. This is my first NSF Grants Conference.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Yee, and I'm in the Division of Information Systems, and I oversee the operations and maintenance for Research.gov and Fastlane.
Good morning. My name is Maureen Weir, and I'm a special agent with the Office of Inspector General.
Good morning. My name is Hugh Sullivan. I'm with the Division of Human Resource Management, and if you want to talk to me, I'll be outside about job opportunity at NSF.
Hi, my name is Keith Denis. I started as a PI a long time ago and a rotator, and now here at NSF. I work in the division. I'm a program director in the physics division. I oversee grants in theoretical high energy physics and cosmology, and I'm here representing the Directorate of Mathematical and Physical Sciences.
Hello, my name is Ken Lish. I'm in the Office of Inspector General. I lead the Grant and Agreements audit team. So if you'd like to get audited, just let me know. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Francisco Rubin. I'm an Assistant General Counsel in the Office of the General Counsel.
Hi, I'm Bill Dawes. I am an IT project manager in the Division of Information Systems, and I work on Fastlane and Research.gov.
Okay, thank you all. And these are the folks to go to over the next 2 days. So let me begin by introducing our next speaker. He just introduced himself. Tony, don't go too far. Tony DiGiovanni is the acting division director of the budget division, and he's going to talk to us this morning about a little bit about NSF, an overview of the foundation, how we're organized, and also our current and future funding outlook. So give it away to you and just advance that way. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeremy. Want to start out by saying I'm a little bit nervous. This is the first time I've spoken to a group this large. I understand there's about 300 people here today. And then I find out that there's another almost 3,000 looking on telecast, so I'm a little bit extra nervous. But then a colleague of mine, Dale Bell, who you'll hear from later, reminded me of something very important, that nobody came here to listen to me talk. So you're here for other reasons, so I should take heart in that. So there we go. So as I said earlier, and Jeremy just reiterated, my name is Tony DiGiovanni. I'm the acting division director, and welcome to the Fall 2017 NSF Grants Conference. I've been at NSF since 2014 after starting in federal service at the Department of Energy in 2000. And I've always worked in kind of the budget and appropriations realm. And I was in the CFO office at Department of Energy, and then for a couple of program offices that made grant awards also. So I'm no stranger to the federal grant making process, but NSF runs things in its own way. And since I came to NSF in 2014, I had my head buried in the operations of the agency, the funding of that. So I'm going to be learning along with you a lot about the NSF grant making process. So I hope to have learn a lot just like you are today and tomorrow. So I'm going to talk about how NSF is organized and where we came from, some of the foundational mission work. I'm going to talk about NSF in the federal context with the other agencies that fund R&D, and then, as Jeremy mentioned, talk about the FY 2018 budget and some funding trends for proposal success rate. So the mission of NSF. NSF was created in 1950, nearly 7 decades ago, with the mission to promote the progress of science, advance the national health, prosperity, and welfare, and to secure the national defense. That's a very broad mission, and I'll touch on that a little bit later too. NSF accomplishes this mission through its role to encourage and develop a national policy for the promotion of basic research and education in a broad range of areas across all disciplines. NSF also has a role to initiate and support basic scientific research, not applied research like at other agencies, Department of Energy, Department of Defense, things like that, basic research. And NSF has a role to evaluate the science research programs undertaken by all agencies of the federal government. And this is a picture of the NSF's new headquarters building in Alexandria, Virginia, and I hope that you all get a chance to visit it soon. So a little bit about NSF. It's an independent agency, which among other things means that NSF is outside of the cabinet agencies, so the director of NSF doesn't sit on the president's cabinet. That gives a little bit of independence in the direction and governance of the agency, which I'll talk about at the bottom of the slide. So, as I mentioned, NSF supports fundamental basic research and education in all of the non-medical fields of science and engineering. And we have a very low overhead. About 93% of the money that we get from Congress, NSF uses to fund awardees. NSF operates on a discipline-based structure, and I'll show you that in the org chart a little bit later. We think of it like colleges at a university. It's very similarly organized. And Jeremy mentioned this, an important aspect to NSF is our use of rotators, in particular, people who come on the Intergovernmental Personnel Act, or IPAs. NSF has special hiring authority to bring in people from the community on a temporary basis. And this keeps NSF connected to the community and brings the new ideas and refreshes NSF with fresh faces and fresh ideas. So the governance structure of the NSF is another aspect about being an independent agency. The National Science Board is 24 members appointed by the president, and they help provide direction for the research and facilities that NSF undertakes. Then there's also the director appointed by the president on a 6-year term, and there's a second political appointee in the deputy director, and we currently don't have one. So right now, there is really only one political appointee at the National Science Foundation, whereas another cabinet level agency might have 1 or 2 or 500 of them. So that's another kind of aspect for NSF to being independent. There we go. So NSF and the support of basic research. This is a picture of Vannevar Bush. Many see him as the spiritual father of NSF and of the federal funding of basic research in general. His 1945 report, Science, the Endless Frontier, spurred the creation of a system of public support for university research that endures to this day. And that is the underpinning for NSF's creation. So there's a quote up here about the importance of basic research and how it can lead to an understanding of important problems. Also, he has another quote that I'd like to read. Scientific progress on a broad front results from the free play of free intellects working on subjects of their own choice in a manner dictated by their curiosity for exploration of the unknown. So that kind of curiosity-driven research is a big part of how NSF operates, as opposed to other agencies like at the Department of Energy, where it came from, that was very directed by Congress and it's the funding that it chose and the applied R&D that it undertook. So that's another key aspect of NSF being different than others. So here's a very boring slide about the org chart. You see at the top, the director and the National Science Board provide the governance for the NSF, and then the boxes down below, the research directorates. They're like the colleges at NSF University. Down at the bottom, Budget, Finance, and Award Management and Information and Resource Management. Those are the two operations offices. Many folks here today are from those offices. So I think the really interesting research occurs between the boxes. And NSF has a number of these cross-disciplinary activities that seek to break down these walls. And I'm sure that people here from NSF would love to speak with you about that. So please ask questions about that over the course of this conference. This very colorful slide talks about some of the numbers for NSF. So you'll see some things I mentioned earlier. Of the $7.5 billion that we got in FY17, 93% went out the door to fund research and educational activities. And in FY17, we supported about 2,000 institutions and over 350,000 people. So we receive close to 50,000 proposals each year and a select 11,000 or so for funding. That means we decline a significant number of proposals each year. And many of them are passed over due to lack of funds rather than failing to meet the standards of NSF. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later. The awards are determined through a merit review process, which we mentioned, and as you know, which is regarded throughout the world as the unequaled standard of scientific review. And the merit review process relies on the expertise of accomplished scientists to ensure all NSF projects are of the highest quality and have the potential to advance the frontiers of knowledge and transform our world. NSF program reviews have always focused on the intellectual merit of the proposals. That's a key aspect. And there's a session on the merit review process after lunch today. You'll hear more about that. And the whole reason for this conference is to learn more about how that all works. And we must be doing something right because at last count, NSF-supported researchers have received 231 Nobel Prizes. And when I was updating this deck from the last time it was given, there were 223 Nobel Prizes. So we added 8 just in the last year, just since the spring, in the last round. So we must be doing something right. And I'll also point out that NSF invested in all of these Nobel laureates' basic research work long before they were recognized by the Nobel committees. So this slide shows NSF support of academic basic research. So it's only basic research, only at academic institutions, and only federal funds. So you'll see NSF as a major federal funding source for academic basic research. And many government organizations work to ensure the U.S. leads in research and innovation, and the NSF partners with them on many research initiatives. So while other agencies provide, am I making these bumping sounds? All right. Sorry. While other agencies provide mission-directed research in fields such as health or defense, NSF's broad mission that I mentioned before makes us uniquely poised to support all fundamental research regardless of the field of study. So no other agency has that position to have the authority from Congress to fund this wide range. So NSF's in a great position, I think. So this graphic shows NSF budget in the federal context. You'll see that circled part of NSF, this is the FY18 budget request, $5.4 billion for NSF out of $118 billion total. This is federal R&D. So federal R&D spending comes from over 20 federal agencies scattered throughout the president's budget. So NSF is a small dollar amount, but we are 5th on this list. So. The R&D funding levels across government, the trends have closely mirrored the trends in discretionary funding levels. So, I'll talk a little bit later about what to watch for in the appropriations process coming up. So while NSF may be a relatively small slice of the overall federal R&D spending, NSF is a major part of the basic research funding at academic institutions, as we saw on the last slide. So here's a picture of the beautiful budget request document. The FY18 budget will help the United States invest in the next generation of discoverers, folks like you, who will continue to advance new knowledge that supports the country's economy, security, and global leadership. And you'll notice the tagline on some of the posters outside, NSF is where discoveries begin. When the new director started in 2014, she added a little carrot and discoverers, underpinning her belief, the importance of funding the discoverers who make the discoveries. So if you're wondering why this says 6.65 billion, but the other slide was 5.4 billion, that was just R&D. This includes other things like the facilities that NSF runs, does the operations and maintenance for, and also the money that funds the operations of the agency itself. So this table shows each of NSF's 6 appropriation accounts. They're listed with the amount requested in FY18 and the difference between 18 and FY17. So don't look at the bottom right. 11% reduction. So in general, the research and related activities and education and human resources accounts primarily fund NSF's grants and cooperative agreements. And the education and human resources account also funds NSF scholarships and training programs. The major research equipment and facilities construction account funds the construction activities of telescopes, research ships, gravitational wave detectors, particle accelerators, other large facilities that NSF builds. And then the agency operations and award management funds the NSF staff salaries and other operational costs. And then the National Science Board and Inspector General round out the oversight and governance structure. So these figures represent the President's request for funding in FY18. But Congress is looking to provide more funding to NSF than was requested. So you'll see here, the last 2 columns, the amounts that the House and the Senate have each provided the NSF in their versions of the FY 2018 appropriations bills. So while both the House and the Senate are a decrease below the FY 17 level, it's about a 2% decrease versus the 11% decrease that we saw in the request level. So we have good support in Congress. So where's this all heading? What's something to watch for? So for FY18, we sent the budget request to Congress in May, and they did their work over the summer to come up with those figures that we saw on the last slide, but they haven't passed a bill yet. The House has passed its version of the bill, and the Senate hasn't quite gotten there yet, and they still have to come together and pass a final bill. The fiscal year started October 1st, and they hadn't passed the bill, so we've been operating under a continuing resolution, which goes through December 8th. So the next thing to watch for in that time frame is the House and Senate voting on the appropriations. It could be for another short-term continuing resolution. It could be a continuing resolution that goes to January. It could be a full-year appropriation, or the last option we won't mention, which if they don't take action. So there's lots of things tied up in this tax reform, the total discretionary funding cap. So lots of things that need to be worked out. And I wish I knew more, but I would say that the people who are going to make those decisions don't even know yet. So the rest of us just get to read it in the papers. So for FY 2019, NSF submitted the budget to OMB in September. That was the first formal part of the appropriations process. And we're now working with the administration to prepare the President's FY 19 request that we'll submit to Congress in February. So turning back to the near term, back to FY 18, when do we think we're going to get this appropriations bill? The CR ends December 8th, but if history is any guide, it could be that early, it might be later. This slide shows how many days after the start of the fiscal year that appropriations for NSF have been enacted. So since 1991, only twice has that happened before the start of the fiscal year. They're 97 and 95. So that's how it's supposed to work. They're supposed to pass the bills before the fiscal year starts, so you start with your bill. Because when you operate under a continuing resolution, it's based on last year's appropriations bills and all of the yes you can do's and no you can't do's and dollar amounts in last year. So we're this year now, we should have a bill for this year. So in 2012, we got our appropriation by this time of year, kind of mid-November, right? So that was a point in time. But last year, what I have circled up there, we set the dubious record for the longest time into the fiscal year for passing an appropriation bill since 91, since this kind of continuing resolution stuff started, when the President signed the bill on May 5th. So last year took the longest into the fiscal year, and if we got it passed by December 8th, that would be in that kind of 60 to 90 day range. So I think that's the best we can hope for this year. So be on the lookout for that. All right, so now that we've talked about all this money, what are your chances of getting funded? I think the really important stuff for you. So this slide shows the success rate for research grant awards.
was about 22% in FY18. So about 4 out of 5 don't get funded. And at the FY18 request level, that bar on the far right, because the request level went down, we expect to evaluate a similar number of proposals and make about 8,000 awards, so a lower number of awards, and we would expect the success rate to drop to about 19% in that scenario. But as I mentioned, the House and the Senate are both looking to give us more in 18 than we requested, so we'd hope to see a similar success rate in 18 as we did in 17. And this chart shows the trend in success rates since 2008. And you'll notice there was a big spike in 2009 in the success rate, and then in 2010 in the number of proposals. This was due to the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, or the ARA, or the stimulus, went by different names. So leaving that aside, that kind of anomaly, the overall funding rate for NSF, all NSF proposals in 2017 was 23%, compared to about 25% in 2008. So it's been relatively steady in that range over that time, but you'll see that the number of proposals has grown by about 15% in that same time frame. So the proposal levels have remained relatively stable since the bump in 2010, maybe 2011 starts to come back down, and the funding rate has also remained relatively stable in that frame from 22 to 24%. So we're hoping, again, with FY18 appropriation being relatively close to the FY17 levels, that we'd expect to see a similar success rate. So mentioned earlier that the proposals that don't get funded aren't because they're not good proposals, it's really more from lack of funds. And this chart shows the proposals from FY 2017 that resulted in that 23% funding rate we talked about, stratified by average viewer ratings. So first thing, you can see that we don't just go down in rank order down the list until we run out of money. The ratings by the reviewers are one input to the decision-making process that has other parameters. NSF program managers are empowered to consider a number of aspects of an investment, and you'll hear more about this at sessions later throughout the conference. So another thing this shows is that there's a significant amount of very good and excellent proposals that are not funded. Those green bars, the declines, those are 4.5s and 5 proposals that are rated 4.5 and 5 that are not getting funded. So these highly rated proposals amount to about $4 billion a year. So if NSF's funding levels from appropriations from Congress increase significantly, we would still be able to fund highly rated proposals. We still have a lot, so really the takeaway is that a lot of good science is getting left unfunded. So that is something that we are trying to correct. So this gives a kind of a brief overview of the NSF award portfolio. The over $27 billion in total award funding out there right now on over 42,000 active awards. There's the percentage by type of award instrument. You'll see that it's overwhelmingly standard grants and continuing grants. Very small slice for fellowships and cooperative agreements and other types of awards. And of the over 3,000 active awardees that we have, there's the percentages for universities and four-year colleges dominating the pie, with the nonprofits, community colleges, for-profits, and other awardees. Just kind of give you a sense of where most of our money goes. Now for the conference award portfolio, the institutions represented here, in Arizona, 914 active awards, 600 million, and almost 8,300 total awards in NSF's lifetime. And for the conference attendees, you'll see that 126 have registered 16,800 active awards for over $11 billion. So that's pretty good work, I'd say. So here's some key documents. We call that top one the PAPG. PAPG, Proposal Award Policies and Procedures Guide. It's a mouthful, so we just call it the PAPG.
It's the most profound document, and Gene Feldman will be happy to tell you all about that later. The budget request document, probably a little bit less interesting than the PAPG. The strategic plan, something you should also check out. And then I think a very important document that would give you help kind of give you some other insights into the merit review process. That last one, the National Science Board report. I think that combined with what you learn here these next couple of days would give you a really good picture, and that would be a great reference for later. So. For more information, here's some places to contact, and ask folks questions. You have us here, kind of a captive audience for the next couple of days, so please take advantage of that and pick our brains. Jeremy got the bad mic.
We have a couple minutes for questions. Do we have any questions for Tony? If you have a question, raise your hand and I'll bring you the mic. Okay. She's coming right to you.
She got the bad mic.
If I just stand up and talk, oh, okay, never mind. So I'm curious, no, it's not, okay. I'm curious about that graphic that you had about the level of funding over time. I wonder if you've disaggregated that and have a sense of like which directorate is getting more money. Is there a sense that, you know, the funding has remained sort of stable, but one directorate or two directorate are getting more money and other directorates are not getting as much? Do you have a sense of sort of, are all the directorates getting the same amount over time, or is that switched around some?
I don't have those figures off the top of my head. I do have the sense that there has been changes over time, and some of that is probably from facilities, and some of that is from directorate participation in NSF-wide initiatives. So I don't have the information, so I don't want to say something incorrect. But that information does exist. It would be gettable. We just didn't present it here.
Any other questions?
So along those lines, then, could you define or describe what the EPSCoR initiative is?
So that's definitely not my area of expertise. The question is about EPSCoR, the recently renamed established program from experimental program. I guess after 50 years, it's no longer an experiment. So I don't have those figures offhand. So I apologize for not being able to answer the question. But somebody here has got to know something more than I do. That's a low bar.
Hi, just to make a comment about the 23% funding rate, that would be the number of proposals that received any funding. But very often in the process of awarding money, the amount requested is not what's given. So really, in terms of numbers of dollars given out, it's far more competitive even than that. So
yeah, that's a good
really
point,
hard.
if folks heard that.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Tony.
Thank you.